recording. I want to see. Okay, everybody heard that, right? I want to make sure that I'm trying for that.
Yes, it's on.
Thank you. And so here we are. We're at the beginning of, well, of wherever we are, as we begin to contemplate a whole life path and how to really, maybe the words would be things like integrate, incorporate, include, not only these teachings, which are all practices. One of the things that Gregory Kramer says very early in the writing of the book, A Whole Life Path, not only philosophy, not only ideas, not only concepts, but actually invitations of ways of being in our everyday, every moment life. Even when your Zoom goes out, how then do we live? How then do we practice? How then do we invite the possibility of liberation, of freedom, of using every moment and its possibilities in which to be free from suffering, free from distress? When the Zoom went out, I'll use that as an example. One of the things I think is our habit in these practices and teachings is to think somehow we should simply be all Zen. And I think that's so dangerous. It's such a mistaken understanding of these teachings and practices and the realities then too, isn't it, of our humanness. And so when the Zoom went out, my stomach gripped. I went, oh no, of course this is going to happen to me on the first day. Well, that's an interesting thought that I noticed. Of course this is going to happen to me. That's a curious thought for me. I'm going to look at that a little bit, like what I should be expecting disaster or expecting difficulty or expecting myself to get it wrong or not do it right. I'm not making any decisions about that. I just noticed that that was a first thought. Of course, this is going to go sideways. And I'm holding that with a lot of interest right now. It's something I've heard myself say before. And given that I said it to myself today, I'm going to really be holding that during our practice today. And not only recognizing that I thought it, that's certainly valuable, but also looking at where did it come from? Did it come out of fear? Did it come out of pain? Did it come out of believed thoughts that regardless of my intention, life doesn't go the way I want or that it should? And so this depth of inquiry is in fact one of the invitations in a whole life path. And not only is it an invitation, the addition is it's offering opportunities and practices and ways of being in those moments so that we can see most clearly. We can be most present to our direct experience. We can be most human. And not only that, we can bring the radiant light of clear seeing, of wisdom, of compassion to our experience, even when it's not what we, as is often the case, what we wanted, planned, or hoped for. I'm just going to check in before we sit, which will always be the first thing we do, with a brief summary of what I'd like to try to cover today. We're going to begin to look at chapter 1 and a little bit chapter 2, the 6 tenets, only because I think the practice possibilities there are infinite. And I'm going to give you a few direct inquiry questions that I'd like you to stop in moments throughout your week and ask. But before that, before we begin, I'm just going to check in on chat And one of the things I want to know, if you could let me know, I can only see me here, so I can't unfortunately see the community on my phone. One of the things I'd like to know is who has the book? Did anybody get the book, or are you currently just using the article, for example, that I sent and the summary that I sent? Have the Kindle book. Me too, Jan. It's pretty helpful. I'm going to be able to show it to all of you, I hope, once I get back online over here. Have the paperback. Good, Denise. I have the book. Great, Pete. Thanks. And have read something. Good, great, Adrian. Thanks for letting me know. Good. Okay, so we're in some okay shape here. Several of you have the book. Some of you have read the chapter. That's good too. You know, the reading is always useful. It'll provide a context. Great, Dennis. Glad you're getting it. I have both the Kindle and the hard copy. Good, good. I think right now, if you don't have the book, these basic considerations will be workable for a week. But I think as we get into the 8 path factors, I think what you're going to find is that reading about them will certainly support you, and I think flesh out a little bit better what we're talking about, especially for those of you, and I know there are many who honestly don't have very much direct teachings or experience with the Noble Eightfold Path. And so thanks for letting me know that. I appreciate that. I will always try to send a little something. We do not have permission to copy the book or the chapters. So my suggestion would be, if this is financial in any way, that you let us know. We will try to be a support. And the Kindle version is certainly less expensive, but not by too much. I think it was around $12.95 or something on Amazon to get the Kindle version of this. The reason I get the Kindle is that I can actually put it on the screen on Zoom. Not sure how we're going to do it today, based on whether I can get back on or not. Let's see how we do. Can always copy chapters for people. Yes, we didn't get permission for that. It's just something I want to sort out a little bit. When I do a book study, I always like to ask. Sharon Salzberg has been really remarkable with us, and Gregory just didn't respond, which in no way means that the answer is no. It just means I don't have a yes. And so for right now, I'm taking that as an I don't know, which is, I think, fairly right and reasonable.
I think copyright laws are just that if you use them for sale and we're not selling them, I mean, so I think.
Okay, so that might be workable. And maybe Gregory was hoping I'd figure that out. We are certainly not using this to benefit financially, although we are certainly using it to benefit, I hope. So that's going to be where we head. Let's sit for a while. I'm going to have to get a little bit adjusted. I'm in my mom's office and I'm sitting in a rolling chair. So if you see me doing this during the practice, that's me falling back off of this rolling chair that's here in front of me. I do not have my bell this morning. So get prepared to sit. I'm going to go grab a pillow and
Anna, can I just say one thing?
Yeah, please, Greg.
Yeah.
As I grab my pillow.
I think EMC, if there's some people that having difficulty getting the book, that EMC can purchase some books. So if we have anybody that needs a book, let us know, and we'll go ahead and do that.
I think that would be very appropriate, Greg. Thank you.
Letting know could be chatting with Greg directly in the chat feature.
I think that would be also a good instruction. Thanks, Pete. We don't need to know that.
For me, Greg, I'm buying it.
Or Carrie, yeah. Thank you. Please let us know. I definitely do not want anyone not participating fully as a result of lack of resources, whatever that is. And so if you're needing support, again, please, thank you, Greg, Pete, and Carrie for stepping in to be of assistance there. That's important. And that's a part of the path, isn't it? The path says this is not your individual practice. And if you're doing that, I've done it for a really long time, probably most of my practice, seen this more as an individual path. It's taken me the last 15 years, really, to understand more and more. And I'm still only at the beginning of that, I think, of understanding that everything is not just mine at all. So what a beautiful way for us to begin by in the way Greg offered and our community is offering to be a support. We're going to be a support in other ways as well, by the way, because we're going to be buddies with others. And I'd like everybody to reflect on that because two things have happened with our study buddies I've noticed. One is that it's hard for us to make time for that. That's interesting, isn't it? That's one of the reasons I'm here at my mom's. It's hard to make time, especially when someone is, you can use distance or you can use different time zones. You can use the other important or more important things that we think we need to be doing. And this book says, really look closely and pay close attention to what we're choosing, deciding where we are spending our time and resource, and that we perceive ourselves in some way as separate regularly, and then not of consequence, like doesn't matter if I go, it doesn't matter if I make the call, it doesn't matter if I step in. And what we're going to continue to see is it always matters. It matters to you. It matters to your own happiness, well-being, and ease. And not only that, it matters to others and theirs, and then the whole of the world. So let's not take ourselves for granted and imagine that we are not valuable. And then we will not take others and their capacities to be of offering and benefit as well. And so let's prepare to sit. I'm going to lower this light just a little, since you're not needing to see me so much for the practice. Thank you. And so finding a comfortable, grounded seat, I'm going to have to work at that for a moment. So might you, or you might already be established. Now we're going to find the breath. And I don't like rushing to the breath, as you know. So when I say the breath, I simply mean this body sitting here breathing. And feeling into the base of the body, wherever that makes most sense for you. My feet are somewhat hanging off of this chair. And so I'm really noticing my feet, interestingly, because only my toes are connecting. That's feeling like a pretty good support, however, that contact. And then feeling into the legs and seat, the uprightness of the body. And the ever existing movements, the beautiful sway of the body that naturally happens as we're breathing. And see if you can begin to become somewhat interested in that experience of the movements of the breath and the aliveness of this body. We can tuck that chin just a little. There's no reason to look at me. I'm doing exactly what you're doing. Find a place for the hands to be at ease, restful. And then we draw back by a certain percentage, just sit back a little bit. We tend to move forward into Zoom. See if you can't just settle in the center point between the hips and the spine. And then if you notice a kind of tension, tightness, even once you get yourself centered, grounded, stable, just shake it out a little. Like, "Look," get rid of all that instruction, though they're beautiful pointers, just so that we can be present. And just feeling the sense of the body as it sits, the movements of the body, the weight, the pressure, the contact, the feet, the seat, maybe the back of the chair if you're lying back, possibly areas of back support. And then we let the body come into its own without artifice, without fabrication, without concepts about sitting. We're really dropping into the seat, taking your Dharma seat. We arrive then to this one breath. And we're going to focus just gently on the out breath for a few breaths as we draw ourselves nearer, closer into the seat we've taken. Settle in. Let the belly be soft, the face relaxed. And then placing the mind. You could say the heart mind. In the gentle movements of breath in a particular body part, somewhere within the breathscape possibly, or another area of the body where there is some sense of ease. And you don't need to grab a spot at this point. So I just checked into the shoulders, the hands. I felt the softening belly. Ah. And then the invitation is to see if you can't begin to simply rest the mind again and again, each breath, at some point in the body. I want to be careful about the word point because that can imply something tiny or small or constricted. This is not the intention. It simply means one object. And so I'm going to hold the lower belly right now today. And I'm holding the whole of the lower belly. Sometimes I more focused. Sometimes the lens is wider. Today it feels very alive, just present in that lower abdomen. And see where the mind is invited into the body for you. What's the body have to offer? We're unifying very slowly here, mind and body. But we don't do it with pressure, demand, or striving. And once you have located that space, that area, that object, let's see if we can't commit ourselves for these next several moments. Just the invitation is to, with each breath, touch in lightly to that area of the body. Can we bring a quality of friendliness, of kindness, of goodwill? Can we touch in as if it were a gentle kiss on a baby's head? With that kind of receptivity, openness, heartfulness. See if both the in breath and the out breath are available to you. And if not, you can choose to pick one side to begin. Where do you feel most engaged, most available, most present? Is it the in breath, the out breath? We're going to rest in this breath experience, this shamatha, calm abiding for several moments. Noticing the tendency of the mind with a few moments to move away from that area of the body, the breath. And we're going to see if we can't sustain that gentleness, that ease, that calm. Just inviting the mind once again, each breath, back to the breath. Just staying in contact with the breath as best you can. And with whatever else is happening, just see if you can bring attention to the breath with each breath. And we have an opportunity here to really cultivate that friendliness by watching our habits for being demanding, for having preference, for wanting this practice to be a certain way. Be watchful. This is often the beginning of our ill will. Really, we direct it to ourselves, don't we, this demand? And the practice here is recognizing the nature of mind and habits for wandering or restlessness or sleepiness. And just now, in the recognition itself, we're just simply going to invite that attention back to the body. And even now, we're beginning to cultivate a relationship with our own bodies, with our own minds, with our habits of reactivity, judgment, wanting and not wanting. And I don't want you to really get lost in that inquiry. We're just going to notice the movement away, as Sharon Salzberg says, the not breath. And in its recognition and liberation, we simply arrive this breath, feeling these sensations and smiling. And we may not be smiling at the quality of our breath. We may not be smiling at the sensations in the body. These are the objects upon which we're placing the attention, but we can consistently smile at our commitment, at our willingness, at our aspiration to abide here with each breath, both the ones we like and the ones we don't like. See if you can notice the habits to look for some other breath, some other moment, some other quality of mind, some other humanness that may be here. And see if we can't just breathe that. And with this growing stability, this greater ease, calm, there comes with that a capacity intrinsic to sustained attention to see a bit more clearly. And I want you to notice something if you can. This will be a first for some of you. See if you can notice the way the mind begins to get disinterested or bored or restless just before it disconnects from the breath and moves into sounds or thoughts or planning or memory or future thinking. There's a quality of mind and body. Actually, it's embodied as well. You can feel it as a little bit of grip or restlessness, uh, a movement or a slight contractedness in that solar plexus area. It's called tanha. It is the hunger of the mind, that which is seeking more, wanting more. There is a grip, a cling, a grasp in it, and then the mind moves. And these are the things you begin to recognize as we cultivate this sustained and then a single object attention. And watch for that for a while, just before the movement. And there is a thirst, wanting in it. And I'd like you to feel later, we'll practice that, what it feels like when we just come back and rest back. But let's begin here. Just noticing the breath. Give a little room to the breath. Be watchful you don't over cling to the breath itself. Can you feel that sense of stability, of presence, that's often called a refuge or a sanctuary in the breath itself? Nothing else to seek or want. That tanha, a little bit released. And then you can feel the tug, the pull, the grip, that self seeking. And this is essential, very important information. This is the beginning of all suffering. And see if you can't stay with that direct experience for a bit. There is slight distress, a not enoughness, something needed. There's gripping qualities of mind and body here. This is the first noble truth. There is no peace, no ease, no calm, no rest, no refuge, no abiding here. And then we invite ourselves back. Come back home, back to the refuge, back to the breath, back to that easeful, present, open and receptive mind. We begin again. Whether it's a half a breath or 10 breaths, we're once again at ease. Expanding our awareness now beyond that breathscape, the breath spot, that place of refuge and ease, expanding that to include the whole body. Expanding further beyond the body, then to include the space around you. Maybe sounds or movements, awareness that moves beyond the body. Keeping that breath close. Preparing to end the practice, just feeling once again into the body as a whole. I won't be ringing the bells this morning, but your own gentle body movements, the checking into the body, seeing how you are. And I'm going to check in here, see how everyone is. Any questions about that basic shamatha, breath awareness, and samadhi? For some, samadhi, the felt sense of the benefits of our shamatha practice, a little more concentrated mind, a little more availability of one's full attention, the little easier focused attention, maybe placement is a little easier. And with all of that comes a certain clear seeing. And I even pointed us to a fairly refined quality, that sense of the restless mind or the seeking, wanting mind, even before the mind goes off into other thoughts or cravings or things it likes or wants, something pleasant or distracting. And I'm going to check in on that first, just to see if anybody was able to notice that. Did anybody catch that hunger, that thirst, that tanha? That's a essential life energy. We're not trying to be critical of that. I would like you to simply know that it is a part of our being human, and to know something about it, so that we can not only see, sense, and experience the tanha, the grip, the wanting, the craving mind in its reactivity, in its seeking nature. We can also then begin to make choices about what to do, how to respond to that, rather than just be led away from that grip into impulse and habit. Anybody check in on that? Did anybody make contact with that? I'm curious. Kind of scary, yeah. Because the grip is real. Yes, thank you, Dennis. It's true. It's there. Our knowing something about it is also so useful. And because as we come to know it, we can become more skillful, more discerning, more compassionate towards that reality. I love that word, real. Not only for ourselves, remember, but also then we can begin to be comfortable. No, that was a wrong word, not comfortable. We can be more cognizant, more aware, more than even present and available to ourselves and then others in that grip. I didn't mean comfortable, maybe the opposite, right? Uncomfortable. Courtney says, yes, felt a tightness in the throat, upper chest. I notice it there too, tends to be up. We can also notice it, of course, everywhere. There's a tendency to feel that grip really deep into the belly also. But that subtler tanha, that just light grip, sometimes called by the Tibetans the Shenpa grip, for those of you who have been in those teachings, the Shenpa, the itch, the grip, the queasy tenderness, is how Chogyam put it. I don't know. Well, I suppose I do, really. I think tenderness is, I feel that. It's raw. It almost even at times for me feels wounded. The wanting, the craving of it, the gotta, the gimme in it. Certainly has a vulnerability in it. And as Dennis said, I really like what you said there, Dennis. It can feel distressing or scary, or like, ooh, this is voracious. And in some way, I think we could even say insatiable. Until we attend. And then that would be my second question. Thank you for those shares. The second could you feel the release? Was there any place where you could notice the availability of just being with? And yes, what's interesting about this seeking mind is it often seeks refuge also. And we actually know that it ends up being a little bit working against itself because in refuge, we are abiding with what is. And I was guessing that some of you might have noticed that from that tanha, from that perceived hunger, gripping, wanting, even in its recognition, even when, did anybody catch this? You come back into the body, there is a residual grip. It isn't like it disappeared suddenly. Now we're in abiding, including that experience, that grip, that seeking nature. And we often, I noticed, Dennis, myself, go, wait a minute, this can't be the refuge because that's still there. Well, actually it is. There is a quality of mind that is available, even with now the experience of the unpleasant, the unwanted, and this is a part of our expanded fruit, the expanded fruit of our practices. Oh, I can be even with this in refuge. I don't have to keep everything out. this is a part of a whole life path, is how do I live this whole life in refuge, moment by moment, breath by breath, without thinking it's got to be some other way, or I've got to get to that other pleasant place, or it's got to be more interesting or exciting, or and it is in the whole path then becomes the refuge itself. And then we can abide all objects, all experience, qualities of heart, mind, and body in that refuge without collapse or without the habitual tendencies that we have then to flee or to try to grab some handles, as Pema says. Let me get something to hold on to. Here, there's nothing that I know greater than one's own God indwelling, as you are saying, God, that awareness, that presence, that mind, that concentration, those qualities. And yes, the other truth is we are all holding each other in that, as well as being held by, and I try to remember this every moment of challenge, difficulty that I can, that I am also being held in refuge by others, all those others in the lineage, in the traditions, in the wisdoms who have come before me, as we are that as well. As we are that as well. Anything else before we go take a look at the book? I know that several of you were able to look at the article. Thank you. I thought it was good enough. If he actually wrote quite extensively, I thought, for an article on that. So then I'm going to see if I can't close out chat so I can see everybody here. So then my question is, as you were reflecting yourself on a whole life path, what hopes or fears, let's do both, what hopes or fears came to mind as you reflected on just that title of the book, or the idea of a whole life path? What reflections, what hopes or fears came to mind for you? I would like to know how the group began experiencing that. How did you, when you thought about a whole life path, what came to heart, mind for you?
Hey, Diana, this is Chris. I'll share.
Hi, Chris. Thank
If you
you.
can
I
hear me.
can't see you, Chris, but I can hear you well. Oh, I can see you over here. Okay.
Well, I am driving.
I'll
so
look this
anyway,
way. Yeah.
Yeah, just my journey with you. I mean, I've been in search for answers, always learning, trying to get into the coursework and all the vocabulary and everything. And as you know, you've taken a little break. I took a little break just to kind of be with it a little bit, right? To kind of stop the learning and really kind of transition to how do I incorporate all this learning into everyday living. So as I've kind of previewed the book, I'm pretty excited about it. Because I mean, we always want to continue to learn, but how do you take all those things and really start to live that every day, each moment with everybody who's kind of in your life? And so I don't know, I feel like this is a good time for me, and the book, and where I think the book is going is really timely for me. So I'm really excited about it.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think you have a very common experience, Chris, which is for a long time, I think we all, and I know certainly for myself, kept the practices kind of over there with new language or new jargon and new ideas, maybe even, and kind of found it fascinating and interesting. By the way, my family didn't even know that I was practicing this for years. I even kept it that separate. I called it practicing in the bathroom. I would literally have to leave the area where my family was, or hide out would even be a way to put that for practice. Hilarious, really, because I thought, well, this is going to be hard to explain. You know, I have a Catholic family, though they are not very active in the practice. They're attached to the idea, and all this stuff is new and different, and maybe scary to me. By the way, more than anybody else. Like, I don't even know how to explain this. I don't even know what this is. I guess I felt compelled in some way. I know many of you can relate to this, but I saw it as a thing I could do over there. And I don't think I really came to very much understanding of this is every breath, every moment. Though I heard that word I heard that constantly. I had no idea of what it actually meant to live this every moment, every day. I'm now starting to a little bit go, oh, even when I roll my eyes at what my beloved just said, oh, even when I get that grip and think, oh, good, here we go again, that the awareness of that is also an opportunity. And not separate from the implications for my own mind, body, and heart, for sure, and its suffering or its freedom, but the implication that the impact of that to others. And we always have to begin home alone. So thank you. I think that's exactly a whole life path is both daunting, like whole. Like, what does that mean? And what about when I want to blank my favorite addiction, affliction, device, Amazon, browsing, you know, whatever thing we do. And how to, all of us, I think, have kept pretty separate or like severed, like, nah, not ready to really deal with that. One of the things I do want to say before, and I want to read what Courtney is saying here, but I want to say this is these are not, this is not based on morality. These are not rules. This is not, they are conditions of practice for easing and liberating the mind. And so it says, whenever you're gripping, grasping, wanting, and restlessness, there's going to be some suffering for you. So it says, oh, so you might try really renunciation or limiting some of that, not because they're bad, not because cake is bad or because marijuana is bad or, you know, whatever it is. It's because of its addictive nature, and the quality of addiction is its continued seeking, its continued restlessness, its continued craving, whatever that is for you, whether that's working out, doing work, you know, there's no one, and that in the use of that, we then are not available. We are not available to ourselves and to others in the way we truly most want to be. So integration, that's exactly right. Living it, exactly right. I always find it interesting, Chris, I will say that people think they have to take a break from practice to get to it. That's always a little fascinating because actually that's all, it's all practice. It's all presence. It's all life. And we don't, we can take some time for just simply settling back to ourselves. I think that could be valuable. And you may have been doing that. Like, let me just get here and then begin again, which is exactly what we do in the practice as well. Like, you know, let me set some conditions for just being with myself. Courtney says, all of the times that I have not lived a whole life path, boy, that's a habit of ours, isn't it? to go, yeah, wow, a whole life path. I barely show up for my practice for 10 minutes or 60 breaths a day, let alone the next minute, the next breath, the next interaction, the next engagement, the next object. That's right. And so we can have an amazing tendency, I know for sure I do, to start judging like, wow, all of those moments I was not present. And that we can hold that too, that we can notice our tendency towards judgments, criticism, perfection, demandingness, and actually hold that in the refuge of calm abiding. And we're all going to need a little of that, I think, because we will have the tendency, though it is not of the Buddha's making, we will have the tendency to go, oh, that means I should be, blah, blah. If only I could. Blah. And this, again, is not the path that the Buddha is offering to us. Actually, instead, can I recognize my unskillfulness, my habits, my afflictions, my reactivity without falling then into the further habit of judgment, condemnation, and that will take some practice for us all. But yes, it is one of our fears. I'm just not enough. I can't do this. I do not have what it takes. I think that about every day. Man, I don't know. I'm not sure I've got what it takes for this. And then I remember, and I will help you remember too. Yes, we do, or it would not be offered to us. Tanya, that I'm not living my whole life and what my purpose is. Yes, we have this idea of purpose being something else, something out there, instead of remembering purposes being here. And in the here-ness, in the presence, in the staying here, all of that gets cleared up. And so I'm excited about this book, making that offering of clarity, of clear seeing, and re-intentioning, repurposing our life and our moments in it. Denise, fear that in following this whole life path, I might be alienating myself from family and friends. Boy, I talked about that, didn't I? That in some way, friends who have a certain preference for a way of living will not be open to this path and to us on it. I have never found that to be true. It was a great fear of mine, as I talked about bathroom practice. Like, oh, can't even meditate without my family giving me the fruits and nuts statement from growing up in Chicago. I have not found that. In fact, interestingly, the opposite. Because once we are not espousing, once we are not pontificating, once we are not doing any of that stuff, which all comes out of not enoughness, certainly not enoughness, and we are just being, we're, what's the word? You could only want that with someone. You could only want to be with and in relationship with someone who is truly there and open and present. With you, whether you end up making decisions to eat meat or not eat meat, or to drink or not drink. And remember, this is not a morality path. It is a path of freedom. And so we have to be watchful of the idea that my life would be so different that I could no longer connect with others in it. I don't think it's true, and I do know the fear.
Hey, Diana,
Yes.
that's interesting. The other thing that I've been kind of struggling with, as I've been learning, is I'm not a teacher like you, but I do find myself pontificating and trying to take all these learnings. It's like, if everybody else in my world could only understand, what I'm learning from this, then we could be on the same page, and then wouldn't everything be so perfect? But they look at me like I'm an absolute freaking idiot. Like, that's great. You're on your path, but
good
go to
for
hell.
you, buddy.
Leave me alone. Right?
That's right. Because it comes out of fear, doesn't it? And it also comes out of terrific demand. Like, you have to be different for me to love you. You have to be like me. You have to do what I'm doing. You have to meditate. You have to in order, and we're all doing it, by the way. It is a habit of practitioners to go, if other people could only be as fabulous as me in the practice, or understand this like I do, then wow, we could really get along, or we could really have a peaceable world. And of course, that's bass-ackwards for sure. And I do it, so I know it. And then how do we see that clearly as our own fear and pain, and let go once again, come back to our own mind, our own heart, our own, what are we doing here, rather than judging, demeaning, devaluing, or pontificating others. There's no words better than the being, for sure. My hope is that I can immerse myself along this path, and rather than alienate. Yes, that's right. I've got hope. Hope is hope for the wrong thing, they say. More than hope, I have confidence, truthfully, that that's a possibility for us all. Just to know I am never alone. Absolutely true, Dennis, to recognize that alone feeling. And I think then to recognize our habit for having separated from ourselves, and then wondering why others aren't close to us or near us or connecting to us, and how to get back to ourselves. I agree with you. People will always want to escape. Yeah. Whatever the substance, just be at your own peaceful pool. Yeah. And sometimes I think we have to be at the pool even when it's raging, even when it's boiling hot, even when it's murky, even when it's muddy, even when it's dry like the desert, says the suttas. Can we be at that pool peaceably? Ooh. Can we be at that pool peaceably? Opening to that, including that, resting in that. That's this whole first chapter, by the way, of the book, what we're talking about now. There is a big area of my life where I revert to old habits and judgments. Whoop, don't we all know? Rather than holding others with patience and an open heart. Yes, it's good to know that. It's beautiful to see that, and then to hold that and look, inquire, which we'll be doing. It's an essential part of the path, rather than try to just be some other way. Could we all give that up for a couple of weeks? Rather than this idea, we have to be some other way. Let's release that idea and see if we can't drop in a little more closely, a little more intimately, with a little more friendliness to what's going on there. What's happening when I go into that eye roll, that smirk, that, oh gee, here we go again. And can I hold myself? Yes, Kelly, with patience and an open heart. Can I hold myself with patience and an open heart? And I will be more intentional as we proceed with this book and teaching. Yes, we're all going to need to get a little more intentional, by the way. That's an essential part of the first chapter of the book. We're going to go take a look at it now. Thank you for those beautiful statements. They're really true, and they're actually quite lovely. Thank you. The honesty of that is something I really appreciate. Yes, all of our voices matter, as well as do all other voices, and how to hold them all. Yes, with that, in a calm and peaceable mind and an open heart. That's going to be our essential practice, and the 8 factors on the path. I'd like to take a look at the book now. I'm going to see if I can't turn this off. I don't think I need this video, so I can turn on the other over here and see if this can work. Okay, here I am. There you are. everyone. Can everybody see this chapter 1? We're just going to take a quick look. We've really just discussed chapter 1. Because chapter 1 really is about, Kelly was saying it, and of course, Courtney and all those others were saying, really taking a look at one's life with intention, with clarity, with care, with ease, and setting intention for the path, setting intention for the path. And that's what this is going to invite. I'm going to see if I can't scroll here a little bit and point to just a few phrases I thought spoke to that. Intention is necessary. Right on the first page of the first chapter, any change for the good must face the momentum that made things as they are now. Well, isn't that interesting? I thought that line was quite fascinating, because I will tell you, I'm not sure if I have ever invested the same momentum in practice as I have in my habits. That was quite a striking line for me. I was like, oh, wow, that would be something if I actually invested the same energy in the momentum that it has taken to create the habits. Wow. I think that's going to take us some time. I don't think we should grab on to that as a direction, an instruction. I think it's simply an invitation. And it's something I would like us to keep paying attention to, how that energy, how that momentum continues to grow with practice, with study, and in being in these new ways. Although the Eightfold Path is an intentional path designed to counteract our habits, it says, we miss out typically on the full extent of the freedom. This is the offerings, or we call it the fruit. It's actually saying, because we have not fully intentioned, we also can't get the full benefit. And I want everybody and myself to get the full benefits of these teachings and practices, which is why we're going to have to more fully intention and commit ourselves. Once again, I'm going to take us back to, at the minimum then, that we take at least 60 breaths a day and commit ourselves to that practice every day, because we're going to need to see, with a lot of kindness, compassion, and wisdom, these habits of mind, and then make skillful, caring decisions about them. That's the whole of the path, really. And that is also the noble truths. They will be revealed to us from there. So rather than craving, rather we will calmly abide, peaceably abide at the pool of our experience, seeing what we can. I love this line. Also, you and I are so sensitive. It's so true. Really, the tone of a voice, the slight flicker of an eye, the tones, the vibrations of others, all the studies done on waiting rooms and how people naturally are averse, move away from people who are tense, tight, or restless, and move towards that which is stable, grounded, present, and all of the vibrations of all of that, in addition, he says, to what? The chemical, electromagnetic, neural, hormonal things going on that activate all of us. We're going to take a look at that. Our world is out of control. This is where he starts talking about tanha. Hunger drives us because we cannot consistently construct a life that is only pleasant, that is only joyful, that is only what we want it to be. And out of that fragility, that vulnerability, we spend a lot of time protecting, guarding, refusing, rejecting, and separating ourselves from others. And this is not consistent with where we know true freedom, true happiness abide. We end up being isolated and ultimately, by the way, the word I like is traumatized by those very habits. He talks more about the sensitivities of us and that we have to be regarding of that. There are no moments, no events, no interactions, no relationships that do not affect the body mind. I might say that propel our karma. Every conditioned moment leads to greater conditioning. Every moment of clear seeing, every moment of compassion leads us into greater freedom, and that we start to know something about it. He says, determines the direction and tenor of our individual and collective lives. How are we navigating these responses? What do we do with the wisdom once we know it? We heard what some of us, all of us, do with a judge, condemn, feel failed, not enough. Once we look at our habit natures, and can we look with ever increasing presence and kindness? Depending upon which choice we make, there is suffering or there is peace. That's what we're going to be paying attention to this week. I'm going to give you that instruction. And he then goes on to just name the truth of suffering, the truth that there are causes and conditions that keep our suffering, and that there is, by virtue of that conditioning, a way to decondition, deconstruct, and come out of suffering. And that is identified then in the fourth noble truth. There is a path, a noble eightfold path. We're going to be working on that now. We need not be prisoners of our own ignorance and craving, our own tanha, seeking, wanting, preferring, biased minds, and that there is a better life possible for us all. I think that's all. He names the paths here, starting with right view, moving into right intention, and that this is a path for all of us. We don't have to turn into monks. We don't have to turn into monastics. In fact, we can have a whole life as humans and actually find a greater happiness here. And I know that to be true for sure. And our investigation and inquiry will hopefully lead us. He reviews the chapters here. The other thing that I liked about that, and then we'll end, is here he says your whole life path. Your life path is maybe not going to look just like mine. In fact, guaranteed, it's not going to just look like any of yours. It is not, well, I don't do that because nobody in the Sangha does that. That's not the reason. Or because the Buddha said don't do that. That's not the reason. The reason is, well, because I saw the truth of suffering in it, and I saw the truth of the end of suffering in this path, in some way on the path. And that's our job. It is a very personal, very relatable. No one could reject, resist it, because you will be irresistible, because you are just doing your path. There is no proselytizing in it. There's no, and you ought to be doing it too. Nope. There are people, I'll just use mindfulness teachers as an example. And I, of course, know many. Some mindfulness teachers are vegan, some are vegetarians, some eat meat every day, some drink, some don't drink, some have 2 beers, some have 10. Some people use substances other than that. Some do that for particular spiritual or sacred journeys. Other people don't use them at all or consider them in any way. What's the right path? Well, maybe they're all right exactly for that person with their understanding. So we are not going to get into moral high ground. That is unskillful, unwise, and leads to the continued suffering. but we will notice what works for me. What actually works for me, and how does it work? And as I was just reflecting, as everyone knows, at the end of the year on Amazon shopping, as an example, it wasn't because I was buying crazy things. It was because I felt the tanha in it. I felt the movement from the vitamin section into the golf towel section for no reason. I noticed this grasping, clinging quality of give me something else. Yeah, this will ease the distress. This will be fulfilling. And I have never found it to be true. Except now I have a bunch of golf towels as an example. Nothing contributing to really the end of suffering. Seeing that is beautiful. I thought I'd end with this quote, and I'm going to take the time to read it because I think it's important. So too, all of us, bhikkhus is everyone here. Here's some wise, competent, skillful practitioners dwell contemplating the body in the body. The mind becomes concentrated. The corruptions are abandoned, and he sees the path. The way it's written here is he picks up the sign. He sees the path to the end of suffering. He dwells contemplating feelings as feelings, phenomenon, noticing objects as objects. And he dwells contemplating all of this, concentrated, seeing the corruptions, abandoning them, and seeing the path. That wise, competent, skillful one gains pleasant dwelling. This is what we were talking about, weren't we, Dennis? In this very life, in this very moment in which he gains mindfulness and clear seeing. All right, we're going to end here. We're going to start on chapter 2 next week, the 6 tenets. We're going to be applying them. Here's the question for the week. The question is, and I'll write a little bit about it, what is the practice this moment? What is the practice this moment? That will require that you look at how am I this moment? I want you to ask the question directly. How am I this moment? First question. Then what is the practice this moment? The answer is attend to that. Oh, attend. How am I this moment? Wait a minute. Tight grip, tanha, shenpa, reactive, words wanting to fly out of my mouth. Okay, what is the practice this moment? It will invite a necessary pause, as well as then the turning of one's attention towards oneself in abiding. What's happening here? What's happening here? The first part of the good path is knowing how we are. All right, folks, I'm going to look. Thank you all for being patient with me this morning out here in Hemet, where the Wi-Fi is a little bit sketchy. I hope you could participate. What does it mean to take 60 breaths a day? Jan, there is an entire audio portion of that practice. It means abiding the breath, just like we did today for full 60 breaths. That takes about 6 minutes or so. And I sent you an audio file. If you didn't get it, please let me know. I actually believe I sent it to everyone. Not sure it went, however, because I do know that the file was somewhat large. So if you didn't get it, would you please let me know to send it? That's our minimum practice for each day during this study group, and or shamatha and samadhi practice. Every day for some amount of time, you'll get to pick. I'm asking for the minimum of a 60 breath practice. Minimum. If you didn't get that audio, let me know. I will be sending it to you. I know we're over. I know people have places to go. I'm just going to stop here, take a breath. Please take one with me. May all beings be happy and have the true mind, the true heart for that happiness, cultivating that with every breath on this whole life path. Maybe we filled with intention and the momentum to sustain this path this one day. And may we all be well. Blessings and ease to each of you today. I'll look forward to seeing you on Saturday in the garden. We will be doing these same practices. We're not departing. We're hanging out. Yes, it does sound like the COVID phenomena, doesn't it? I'm with you there. Look forward to seeing you. However we can join, we'll be on Zoom on Saturday. Greg will be doing shamatha practice Thursday at 7. Please join us there too. And I look forward to seeing all of you. We are on this path together. Good news. I don't want to do it alone. I want all my friends. I want all my supports. I want all my buddies with me. I don't have what it takes alone. I don't know if any of us actually does. And we cannot be free if we are not all walking towards that together. I'm counting on you, and I want you to count on me. So I'll look forward to seeing you this Saturday in practice. Mwah! To you. I'll see you all soon. Be well, everyone. Chapter 2, let me know if you need it, or the book.